Very disturbing story. A shocking number of children with disabilities are not part of South Africa's education system, and only a few receive primary education at various special schools. Well, Autism SA Sandy Usswald joins me now to unpack what can be done to address the issue of funding for them. Sandy, good morning, and thanks for your time. And before we look at what can be done, can we ask why? Why is this allowed to happen? And I mean, let's clarify the numbers actually first, because we're looking, when we look at articles, we're looking at numbers like 500,000 children. What numbers do you have on your side? Is that about right? Are we looking at that number of kids?
So that's the number that's come from a childhood survey. At the moment it's a guess, because in South Africa, as in many parts of the world, our children are hidden away because of the stigma that surrounds disability. So it's a guess. We are on a campaign right now to collect the names of as many children that are out of school as possible, so that we can then approach government with real people. A figure, 500,000, means nothing. But when you have actual families and actual children in front of you, that's going to make the difference.
But whatever it is, it's going to be a huge number.
Absolutely.
It's going to be hundreds of thousands. So why? Let's get to that question. Why are we seeing them in this position?
I think there's various reasons. Our children are faced with lots of access barriers, and when I'm talking access barriers, it's not just buildings. It's attitudes, it's knowledge and skills of educators, it's that stigma I mentioned. They are just faced with so many things, and the social model of disability says that it's the environment around you that actually disables you. If that educator does not know how to accommodate you or involve you in the classroom, that's the access barrier, and there's nothing that that person or those parents can do to overcome that. It comes from within the system.
So are we seeing that this is happening in any particular areas, any particular parts of the country where this is concentrated more?
It's throughout the country. Gauteng is fortunate, as the MEC for Education really is on a drive to make sure that children with disabilities are included. But places like Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest Province, there's very few schools that will accommodate children with disabilities, but it's right across the board.
So whose responsibility is it, Sandy? I mean, you talk about the environment that actually disables the child. Whose responsibility is it ultimately to provide this environment for children, for these children?
The highest law in the land, the Constitution, explicitly states that children with disabilities have a right to education. So it's the Department of Education. It starts with the Department of Social Development in ECD centres to get those children ready to enter the formal schooling system. And it's not about putting our children into special schools. It's about true inclusion. And studies have shown that inclusion benefits both the children with disabilities and those without in the classroom. And it takes a change of attitude.
So what is happening? What is happening to these children who should be in school but can't be there because of all of the reasons you've outlined? What is happening to them?
So those very few with money attend private schools or private centres, and the rest of them are at home. They have generally, granny will be looking after them at home if mom is able to work. Or if there's nobody, which is the case of many of our families, there is nobody else to look after them. So parents can't work. They have to stay at home and look after their children. Even the children in special schools at the moment, they leave with a school leaving certificate. So even to get into a learnership, you need a matric. And our children are denied even that right. So even the children that are in special schools are still excluded as adults.
And these are children who could enter the workforce, who could be doing something.
Absolutely. A valuable asset to the workforce.
So what needs to happen, Sandy? I mean, we're looking at, yes, private sector getting involved on some level, but what actually needs to happen? Who needs to do what?
Oh, I think that's a very complicated question. The policies, the law are all in place. The gap is the actual implementation, the schools on the ground that need to open their doors and reach out to organisations that are part of the disability sector to support them, to show them that it's not that complicated to include children with disabilities in their classrooms.
Okay, well, it could be up to 500,000, we say. We still have to get the numbers, but still a shocking number of children with disabilities not able to get to a classroom. Thank you very much, Sandy Usswald, there, for breaking it down for us.